of people in the community talking about a possible working relationship between New Japan Pro Wrestling and AEW. What Dave Meltzer said, what the Young Bucks have said, and what Chris Jericho has done to promote his match with Hiroshi Tanahashi this past weekend at Wrestle Kingdom 14. Being that Dave Meltzer went over to New Japan for Wrestle Kingdom 14, I have the latest on a possible working relationship. Is that door as open as people think? The answer might surprise you. Also, Marty Scurll, was he offered a multi-year mega money deal to stay with Ring of Honor? What's the latest on his contract status and where he will end up after his short stint with NWA? Also, the Revival. What are the likelihood that the Revival end up in AEW? And what is the latest on AEW's interest in all upcoming WWE free agents? I got all the news right here on Off the Script Elites, your number one place right here for everything All Elite Wrestling.
Delete! This is mine.
Alive with it. People still What is going on, guys? Thank you so very much for joining me right here for Off the Script Elite. It is Tuesday, January 7th, 2020, and we are going to go over all the biggest news and rumors right here in the community surrounding All Elite Wrestling. Make sure you guys follow me on social media at JD from NY206. That's on Twitter and Instagram. If you missed any of my previous uploads, which include the flagship podcast from this past weekend, episode 307 of Off the Script, we talk about everything Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, getting you ready for WrestleMania season. That was on Friday and Saturday. Make sure you guys go and check that stuff out. Monday Night Raw from last night. Everything you need is linked right down in the description of this very video. If you guys want to support the podcast via Patreon, patreon.com/JD from NY206. All my latest sign-ups on Patreon, you guys got a shout-out down below, so thank you guys so very much. And the podcast today is brought to you guys by Audible, my good friends over at Audible, audibletrial.com/offthescript. You guys sign up, you go through the sign-up process. Everything you guys do is absolutely free. You guys are going to get 30 days free of their service and one free audiobook of your choice. And you guys, it's easy as pie, man. You can cancel anytime in that 30 days and still get to keep your audiobook for free, and that will last forever. You guys have the option of over 200,000 choices. I've been pushing Mayor Kane. He's got a new book out, 8 hours of audio content narrated by Glenn Jacobs himself. And I just found out today that Hornswoggle has a new book out. If you're a fan of Horny, you guys can go check him out. And Jim Ross has a new book coming out in March. You guys can pre-order Jim Ross's new book as well on Audible using our link. And I want to thank you guys for supporting Audible. audibletrial.com/offthescript. The biggest story in the community revolving around AEW has been their possible working relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Now, we all know that this would be a great deal. It would be a monumental deal. It could be a deal that swings the tide of the Wednesday Night Wars in favor of AEW. I am no dummy. Neither are you guys. You know that for a fact. This is a partnership that would work great in both ways. You got AEW with the talent exchange from New Japan. New Japan clearly wants to have a presence here in the United States. They can't do that without a TV deal. They don't have a TV deal anymore. Anthem booted them off Access TV, which was messed up. New Japan had one more year on Access TV, and Anthem said, you know what? We'll keep you on Anthem if you have a working relationship with Impact Wrestling, and then you'll be good to go for the next year. Impact said that is the only way they could stay. New Japan said, no, we don't want to work with Impact Wrestling. We decline your offer. Anthem booted them off Access. New Japan was thinking that they had 1 full year to kind of get things ready before finding a new possible TV home here in the United States, and now they have no TV deal. So they're going to do what they have to do and get themselves ready and go through the current plans that they have, and then maybe visit somewhere down the line later this year, a possible TV deal somewhere in the United States. But they are without a presence right now in the United States. All that they have is New Japan World. Now, this would be a great relationship for both sides, but I am honestly tired of hearing about the rumors and the news and the speculation about what's going to happen with New Japan working with AEW. The last thing that Meltzer said before he flew out to Japan for Wrestle Kingdom 14 was that there is an absolute change in the air regarding a working relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling and All Elite Wrestling. Then he goes over to New Japan for Wrestle Kingdom, covers the event over there with his team, and then has a completely different outlook on the entire situation. Now he doesn't know what's going on, but the feeling in the air is that the door is still very much closed. So on Sunday, one of the marquee matches on the second night was obviously Chris Jericho going one-on-one with Hiroshi Tanahashi. And it was revealed in the lead up to this match that if Hiroshi Tanahashi won and beat Chris Jericho, that he would get a shot at Chris Jericho's AEW World Heavyweight Championship. This was done, and the only reason why this was done, because a lot of people going into this event figured that this outcome was going to be very predictable. And Jericho wanted to drum up some excitement and some unpredictability for this match. Everybody went into this match, oh, Jericho's not going to lose. He's the AEW World Champion. He's got a match with Jon Moxley coming up more than likely at AEW Revolution at the end of February. Why would your world champion have his first loss to someone not named Jon Moxley? Didn't really make any sense. So Jericho, being the consummate professional that he is, went into this thing with Tanahashi and drummed up some excitement and some unpredictability. Everybody took that for more than what it was actually worth. They spread the rumors of a possible working relationship. Now, if Tanahashi went on to win that match, which he did not, then it would be a completely different story. That would have had that door creep open just a little bit more. But Tanahashi didn't win. Chris Jericho won. So there is no working relationship coming out of that match at all. It was only done for the reasons that I just explained to you. Now, while it is still unclear whether the two promotions have some sort of working agreement together or the fact that there are talks ongoing for a possible working relationship, New Japan's still working with Ring of Honor. As soon as that deal is done, they are definitely, in my opinion, going to seek another partnership, and the best one should be with AEW. Now, he mentioned this last week, did Meltzer, that a relationship between the two promotions has certainly changed. Meltzer noted that the fact that New Japan Pro Wrestling is even acknowledging Chris Jericho as the AEW World Champion is definitely something that opened up a lot of eyes. It should be taken as serious, because normally they didn't do that, or normally they wouldn't do that because they're very loyal and dedicated to their partnership with Ring of Honor. And with the rumors coming out of New Japan that they're very much upset at Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks and the Elite for leaving the way that they did. There is an absolute change, says Dave Meltzer. This was last week before Wrestle Kingdom. Just the fact that New Japan acknowledged on their website that Chris Jericho is the All Elite Wrestling World Champion, and if Tanahashi wins, he gets a championship match at that championship. As we all know, when I was in Dallas, any mention of Kenny Omega and AEW were strictly forbidden, he said. That was an end quote. Now, Impact Wrestling's parent company, Anthem, purchased a majority stake in Access TV in September of 2019. Anthem later approached New Japan, about a possible working relationship with Impact, but were turned down. This led to New Japan programming being pulled off AXS TV going forward. So they had one more year on AXS TV. Impact wanted New Japan to work with them. New Japan said no. They got the boot. Goodbye. New Japan reportedly still has hard feelings about how Kazuchika Okada was handled in TNA in 2010. He was given the gimmick of Okato, a character derived from the Kato character from Green Hornet. Despite no personnel remaining in Impact from that time period, New Japan remains unwilling to do business with that promotion. Can you imagine Impact Wrestling taking Okada, who right now everybody says is the best wrestler in the world and might possibly be the greatest of all time after what everybody's saying coming out of Wrestle Kingdom this past weekend? Can you imagine New Japan just thinking and looking at Impact Wrestling? You took our guy who is heralded as probably the greatest ever, and he was what he was in Impact Wrestling, and now you want to work with us after you tried to embarrass our top guy? It's amazing, man. It's amazing how Impact thinks that people forget. You know? Impact is just as desperate as anybody else. They need something. They need something. They need someone talking about them. They need some excitement. Because as far as I'm concerned, a lot of people don't really give a shit about Impact Wrestling. They got Hard to Kill coming up this weekend. I'll probably tune in to see what Sammy and Tessa do. I'm big fans of both of them. But they don't have anybody talking about them. There's no momentum in Impact Wrestling. They're non-existent in the pro wrestling world. They only exist to the Impact elitists. That's it. That's it. And even at that point, who gives a shit? Because that is just a weird group of people. You say one thing that's off base with those people, forget about it, man. They'll come at you with fucking pitchforks and torches. So, the reason New Japan higher-ups refused the deal is because they actually also have a working relationship with Ring of Honor right now, and they might have a working relationship in the works with AEW. Now, Nick Jackson came out, and he doesn't agree with anybody talking about this New Japan deal. With AEW, Chris Jericho, did the stipulation. Tanahashi wins. He gets the world championship. But AEW and New Japan and the possible working relationship has been drummed up from basically nothing. And that's what Nick Jackson said. So Jericho has been pushing for a working relationship, but according to reports, there isn't a working agreement between the two promotions. The Young Bucks were recently interviewed by ESPN West Palm, where Nick Jackson talked about a possible working relationship between AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. According to him, this is what he said, and I quote, "Yeah, that was just a rumor. Nothing happened. I think Jericho just did that to get the internet to talk a little bit more about his match and the situation, but the door has not opened up at all. We wish them luck in what they are doing because, like Matt said with NXT, a lot of our friends work in New Japan. Most of them are our friends. We have friends everywhere in the wrestling world. If something came along, then we would be open, but nothing is happening right now." That is what Nick Jackson said with ESPN West Palm. I think a lot of people need to put this to rest, man. Wrestle Kingdom was great from what I heard and from what I, seen. A lot of people talking about on social media. They got a huge upswing in momentum now. They got some big events coming up. I think Kenta is challenging for both the IWGP Intercontinental Championship and the World Heavyweight Championship. You got Jay White, I believe, is going to be next in line for a future title shot as well. A lot of big things going on in New Japan, and they have a big swing of momentum heading in their direction. Obviously, a working relationship with AEW would be great. But I don't think it's going to happen right now, so I don't know why people are making it such a big deal, why people are talking about it. Yeah, it's fun to talk about. Yeah, it's fun to fantasy. It's fun to fantasize, I should say, and fantasy book. But that's all it will be. And where is that going to get you? Oh, I can't wait to see a rematch between Okada and Kenny Omega in AEW. Right? I can't wait to see Juice Robinson versus whoever, in AEW. I can't wait to see Jay White versus Jon Moxley on AEW television. Whatever. It's fun to talk about, but it's not going to get you anywhere. It's all hearsay. Enjoy AEW for what they're doing. They got a major pay-per-view coming up in about a month and a half. New Japan just came out of what was probably going to be the best wrestling show of the year in many circles. So why are we talking about them working together when them both right now individually are doing great things? If there's a working relationship, it will happen. It will happen. It's not going to happen now. It's not going to happen in the foreseeable future. I think it will happen. I give it a year. I think going into Wrestle Kingdom 15, and we go back and talk about a possible working relationship, I do think that the door is going to be very much open at that point. But everything that is good will come in time. Obviously, New Japan needs AEW. Obviously, New Japan wants U.S. presence and TV time in the United States. I don't think you could get any better than TNT. They know that. They know that things need to be worked out. And AEW is going to be willing to listen to New Japan and give them whatever they want. And New Japan obviously needs something from AEW. It's a beneficial relationship between the two. Give it time. I don't want to see or hear anything about this news story again. And this is probably the last time I will talk about this until a major break in this story happens that is really pushing this story forward. But I don't really give a shit. I think it will happen, and I give it at least a year. Give it till next Wrestle Kingdom in January. Marty Scurll. Marty Scurll might remain with Ring of Honor. Everybody thinks Marty Scurll could be the exalted one in the Dark Order. I don't know how well that will go off. Could work. I mean, there's a storyline there if they really want to give one to Marty Scurll in the Dark Order. It's very simple, quite honestly. Marty Scurll joins the Dark Order. The Dark Order took out, quote-unquote, the elites. There is an exalted one. He could be looked at as the exalted one. And the storyline for him to come on in and lead the Dark Order is there because AEW started up and the Elite did their own thing without their boy, Marty Scurll. They left Marty to die all by himself in Ring of Honor. Well, they went on to start their own wrestling promotion and get a TV deal on TNT and win over the hearts of many wrestling fans in the industry. Now Marty wants his revenge. It's an easy way to bring him in. I don't know if that's the way that they will bring him in, but it will give some depth to his character. And it would be a major talking point in pro wrestling if that is the case. And it would actually bring some major legitimacy to the Dark Order. The other two names that I'm hearing are Adam Hangman Page, which I don't see him being a leader. I don't look at him being the exalted one at all. I don't know where that rumor came from. In fact, I hope that doesn't happen because that's a terrible creative idea. The other one could be Matt Hardy. Now, I don't need to tell you who Matt Hardy is. Matt Hardy is a very notable figure. And having Matt Hardy be the exalted one and take that broken gimmick and spin it into a little bit of a darker character, maintaining still some of that comedy that he does, could be a great thing. I could see Matt Hardy being a leader of a faction like the Dark Order. So who do you guys want? Matt Hardy as the broken one, a little bit darker in presentation? Or would you like Marty Scurll to come on in and lead the Dark Order as the exalted one, being that the Elite left him high and dry in Ring of Honor? A couple of doors here that AEW could certainly go on and enter on in, with Marty Scurll more than likely coming to AEW. Now, his contract with Ring of Honor ended November 30th. However, he still worked Final Battle. So he is also working a Ring of Honor show on January 12th. It's a house show in Concord, North Carolina. According to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Ring of Honor made Marty Scurll a great offer. No details were really given as far as what this great offer is. It is unknown whether he will be even taking the offer. However, him appearing for another Ring of Honor show might lead one to believe that he could be staying with the company. I don't think that's the case. They probably had him pegged for this show before his contract was even up. So he's probably just doing the nice thing and saying, you know what, you guys treated me good, right? I owe you guys something for treating me good. I'll do this show for you. Just another one-off. It's a fucking house show. Who gives a shit? It's not going to be seen. It's not going to be televised. It's not like a major pay-per-view. It's a fucking house show. And it benefits Marty anyway because it keeps him active, it keeps him in people's eyes, keeps him in people's mouths. Then he's got the NWA pay-per-view at the end of January. So he's getting himself out there before he makes his grand entrance on a bigger stage, a stage that we all expect him to be on, and that is with AEW. So Scurll could be booked as the top star of Ring of Honor, and I honestly think that, well, he is one of the top stars in Ring of Honor, but they really should have given him the World Championship back during that joint show with New Japan and Ring of Honor at Madison Square Garden. He should have won the World Championship and not Matt Taven. That was a terrible creative decision. I really don't understand that. They gave the title to Matt Taven. His contract was up that summer. Meanwhile, Marty Scurll's contract was up at the end of November. They didn't give him the championship. I mean, who would you rather invest in, Scurll or Taven? I know what my answer would be. That didn't really make any sense whatsoever. Scurll is going to be a main eventer. No matter where he ends up, he's not going to WWE. Everybody thinks he's going to AEW, which I just don't find any reason for him not to show up in AEW. They even dropped teases on being the elite. They know something that we don't know. He's coming. He's coming to AEW. When? Probably he will get that big debut, that grand reaction at Revolution. Because I could see the Dark Order storyline really being amped up on a major platform, on a major stage like that. Makes sense to me. He's not going back to Ring of Honor. He's just doing them a favor. It's a fucking house show. It's not like a major show or anything. If this was a major pay-per-view or a major TV taping that he was a part of for weeks consistently, then it's a different story. This is nothing more than a house show. I don't think Marty Scurll is staying with Ring of Honor. Chris Jericho, we just got done talking about Chris Jericho and the AEW Championship, Hiroshi Tanahashi. Chris Jericho actually spoke to the Aquarian in an interview with the Aquarian. And he said that the AEW Championship is a prop. This is what he said in regards to the AEW title being a prop. It doesn't work that way. Jericho was asked if he joined AEW under the condition that he would be the world champion. It doesn't work that way, he says. I would never say that. The belt is just a prop anyway. The important thing is how you can conduct yourself, how you work in the ring, and how you connect with the audience. That's much more important than having a title. That's all he said in regards to that. Now, maybe he could have worded it a little bit better. I think calling the belt a prop when being interviewed by somebody is not really doing the title any favor. If you want your title to be a prestigious title in a company that you are driving has a real sports aspect and a real sports direction, and then you got your main guy, your number one guy, going out there and having an interview saying the title is a prop and nothing more than a prop, it really doesn't make the title look good at all. But Chris Jericho is Chris Jericho. He's going to say what he wants to say. Nobody's going to really interfere with that. But he is right about one thing. How you work in the ring, how you conduct yourself, and how you connect with the audience. You know, in some sense, that is much more important than having a championship. Because if you don't do all those things right, and they gave you the championship, what good is you and the championship being together? What are you doing for the championship that is going to make the championship seem more important? And if you aren't doing all those right things and you aren't checking off those boxes, you know, the championship isn't going to return that favor back to you. You know, because you're the champion doesn't mean you are the greatest ever. Doesn't mean you're the best in the company. Unless you do all those right things and you are a Chris Jericho who checks off all those things, then that's when the relationship between champion and championship is a great marriage. So he is right about that. You know, you got to look at it in that way. What are you bringing to the championship if you don't check off all those boxes? Nothing. So he is right in that, but I wouldn't go out there and just willingly call something like the AEW Championship or a World Championship in general a prop. It really doesn't make the title look all that important or prestigious. Speaking of the Dark Order, we talked about Scurll, we talked about Matt Hardy, we talked about Adam Hangman Page. AEW is teasing the next phase for the Dark Order on Dynamite. Now, the Dark Order didn't close out AEW Dynamite to end the December 18th episode in the very best way possible. It was kind of a mess. In fact, one thing I would do is I would get rid of the creepers. I honestly think it just looks cheesy. I really do think it looks cheesy. They stood over the Elite. One of the creepers, you guys know, went viral, was throwing shadow punches, worse than Shane McMahon, at Dustin Rhodes. AEW didn't have Evil Uno and Stu Grayson come to the ring during Dynamite this week. They still appeared in the Daily's place via a video screen. The Dark Order cut an ominous promo that they dropped with a big hint about the future of their storyline moving forward. A reference was made to the Exalted One being in charge of the Dark Order. This wasn't mentioned in the past. It seems like Evil Uno and Stu Grayson could be acting at the behest of a mysterious supreme figure. After the Dark Order's promo on Dynamite, Excalibur brought attention to this on commentary as he asked, "Who is the Exalted One?" Excalibur seems to be clued into the stories more than Jim Ross at this juncture. So, that's that. He didn't know who the Butcher and the Blade were, but Excalibur seemingly knew who they were, and they didn't make one appearance for AEW. This could be a very interesting storyline moving into 2020 with the Dark Order. So we'll see what happens with the Exalted One. And if it is a partnership with the Broken One, I think that I would enjoy that very much so. So we'll see what happens there. But clearly, if you guys didn't watch Dynamite and you're watching this and you don't know what's going on, I figured I would update you on what's going on with the Exalted One and the Dark Order and who's being rumored, who's being talked about as the Exalted One. But I think we'll get some more, obviously, moving into the build with AEW Revolution. And then at Revolution, I think we'll see something solid as far as who the Exalted One is. They got many weeks of television, so it should play out going on into the pay-per-view. AEW Dynamite is having a tribute to Memphis wrestling legends. Now, this gimmick, there's a reason why this gimmick is happening on Wednesday, and Dave Meltzer reports that the reason why this is happening on Dynamite is because of weak ticket sales for the show on Wednesday. This was a Tony Khan idea to help bring in the local market due to a weak ticket advance. He says, and I quote, "So the advance is not good in Memphis. Some of these advances are good for AEW, some of them are not good. The Memphis advance was weak, and they came up with the idea, and I think this was Tony Khan's idea. They went to Randy Hales. Randy Hales was contacted, and they told him, hey, we want to pay tribute to the Memphis territory. And Randy Hales was like, great, that's cool. Put it on TV. I don't know the names. I know some of the names. And at this juncture, Meltzer didn't know anybody who was going to be on the show. I can confirm that the names who will be there will not be Jeff Jarrett, will not be Jerry the King Lawler, because of their current jobs with WWE. Duh. But these are the legends that will be on AEW Dynamite this Wednesday. Angelo Poffo and Randy Savage, Lance Russell, Hot Stuff Eddie and Tommy Gilbert, Brian Christopher, Austin Idol, Dave Brown, the Rock and Roll Express, who are doing more now than I think I could remember in the last 15 to 20 years. They're even the NWA Tag Team Champions. And I know Ricky Morton is probably loving every bit of this thing. Robert Gibson's like, what the fuck, man? Who gives a shit? He's just there for the ride. Handsome Jimmy Valiant rounds out the Memphis legends that will be on Dynamite this week. Should be a good show. We got Adam Hangman Page and the tension between him and the Elite. He is forced to team up with Kenny Omega again when he doesn't want to. He wasn't filled in by AEW management. They collectively will take on Private Party. After what we've seen on Wednesday, should be a great match. Hopefully, Kenny Omega could teach Quinn and Cassidy a thing or two. Slow it down, boys. We got Cody and Dustin versus the Lucha Brothers. We got a women's championship match with Riho. Can't wait to see her lose that championship against Chris Statlander. So we'll see what happens. Then obviously Jon Moxley will address the Inner Circle. Will he join the Inner Circle and take 49% of Inner Circle LLC in that beautiful Ford GT worth $1 million? We'll see what happens. Should be a good show, and that's the reason why AEW is doing the Memphis Legends gimmick on Dynamite. Still should be a lively crowd, regardless of the low ticket sales for Dynamite. Is this an NXT effect? I don't usually throw that phrase around. I usually use AEW effect, but AEW seems to be locking wrestlers into longer deals. Now, WWE is known for signing all of their superstars to 5-year deals. Rey Mysterio is the only recent contract to note that was shorter than 3 years. Brock Lesnar is always going to be an exception. He signs whatever the fuck he wants. Sasha Banks is another exception. I can confirm that when she re-signed with the company, it was not for 5 years, and I hope that that woman goes on and wrestles somewhere else because they just don't know what the fuck they want to do with her. AEW is now signing some of their stars to even longer-term contracts. Mike Johnson commented on PW Insider Elite that MJF did a radio interview in Long Island where he said that AEW tore up his original deal and gave him a new 5-year contract. Now, Mike Johnson says, and I quote, Khan's already looking at it like it's going to be around because MJF did an interview, I think in Long Island, where he said they ripped up his original deal and he signed a new 5-year deal. They're definitely starting to lock some talents into longer-term contracts, end quote. I mean, MJF deserves it, and he's going to be the future of the business, or one of the biggest futures of the business, and he's definitely going to be a solid piece for AEW in the long run. And that gives you the idea of what Tony Khan is thinking. He's locking a guy like MJF into a 5-year contract. AEW, he's thinking, is going to be around for the next 5 years. Where everybody wants it to fail. Oh, they're going to close up shop. They're going to close after a year. No, they're not. They've been around for a year. They've only had 13, 14 weeks of television, but they've been around for a year. They ain't going anywhere, Cretin. Don't worry about it. But obviously, Tony Khan is protecting his investment. One of his biggest investments right now is, as far as talent go, MJF. And they want to lock him in. That proves to MJF that they believe that he's going to be a future major piece of this company. They're going to build around him, and they want to give him the platform with them to do it. Why would you not want to sign him to a longer-term deal, have him be unhappy for whatever reason, whether it be cash, creative, and then possibly jump ship to WWE where they'll inevitably fuck him up because he won't be able to do what he does on AEW television in WWE. So I like it. I think it's good. Is it an NXT effect? Possibly. There's some seeds of an NXT effect there or a WWE effect, but it's more to do with Tony Khan believing in MJF and giving him the confidence and the aura, can't find the right word for it, giving him the whole mentality that we're building around you. This is how much we believe in you. You've earned this. You deserved it. You've showed us what you've shown us, and you're worth this new 5-year deal and a race. Got to be great for MJF. Good for him. So AEW is planning for the future, clearly. The first show of the new year was great, and they need to keep doing what they did coming out of last week's show. I want that momentum, and I want that consistency to build. And I think it will going into the pay-per-view. There will be down shows. Not every show is going to be a banger. Not every show is going to be a great show. But they need to build towards that pay-per-view, and I think that was a great starting point on Wednesday. AEW stars on Pro Wrestling Tees dominated the top 10 merchandise sellers for 2019. This is no surprise to anybody. I figured this was fun. Now, it's notable that apart from Marty Scurll, Tetsuya Naito, Mick Foley, and Jay White, the entire list consists of AEW stars in the top 10. This is from 1 to 10. Jericho, number 1. Omega, 2. Bucks, 3. Jericho, number 1, I'm not surprised by that. Beating the Young Bucks, that's impressive. On Pro Wrestling Tees, that is impressive. Jon Moxley, number 4. Marty Scurll, number 5. Cody Rhodes, number 6. Tetsuya Naito, number 7. Mick Foley, number 8. Nice to see Mick Foley getting those royalty checks, bro. Jay White, number 9. I don't know what the big deal is about Jay White, but everybody loves Jay White. And the Jurassic Express round out the top 10, man. Good for them. Make that money, boys. Make that money. Finally, guys, I know I talked about this, and I will dive deeper into this on Friday's episode of Off the Script, episode 308, hitting your sub boxes around 2:30 on Friday afternoon. Don't really want to go into this too much, but Jim Valley, I believe he works for The Observer, And Jim Valley asked Dave Meltzer if he's heard any of the big names returning for WrestleMania, or if he's heard any big names on top of what we heard returning for WrestleMania. Edge's name has been rumored, but Edge has claimed that he's not cleared. Meanwhile, I read today, as of this morning, that Edge has been hanging around production at Raw and SmackDown as of late. I wonder why. Maybe he's getting an idea of how WWE's doing things in 2020 instead of how it was back in 2012. Kind of interesting there. Hulk Hogan has been pushing for a WrestleMania match, has been training to get in shape in hopes of getting cleared. I hope to God not. Nobody wants a WrestleMania spot taken up by fucking Hulk Hogan. In response to Valley's question, Meltzer said, I've heard more about people who are probably coming to AEW, he said. There's rumors about Matt Hardy. Again, his contract is up in a couple of months, and I think he's going to be doing Broken Matt in Impact or Ring of Honor or AEW. Take your choice. He could end up in any one of those companies. In that situation, if you're trying to be a high-profile talent, then AEW is your best bet. I would think that he might end up there. End quote. So as previously noted, we talked about Matt Hardy and WWE. They are not really talking about money. It's not a money thing. It's about how are you going to use me creatively is what he wants to know. The sticking point for Hardy is that he wants to be used better than he has been. And he wants to know that if he signs, he wants to be used well because more than likely the next contract he signs is his last contract in pro wrestling. At this point, there are no signs pointing to WWE giving him a bigger push. He's been treated as an afterthought in recent weeks on Monday Night Raw. And there is, I think, a story going around out there now that Matt Hardy and his Raw profile, being a Raw superstar, was quietly moved over to SmackDown Live. I wonder why they moved him quietly to SmackDown Live. We'll talk about that on Friday as well. Meltzer also noted that Marty Scurll is still a possibility to jump to AEW, but Ring of Honor is offering him a lot of money to keep him. It was described as a fantastic money offer being offered to him by ROH. He went on to say, and I quote, Brody Lee, the former Luke Harper, his deal is going to be up in less than 3 months. The Revival, they have not signed with the WWE yet. They're being embarrassed. If you're the Revival and you don't want to stay with WWE, who do you want to feud with? The Young Bucks and the Revival have been setting up that feud with each other for years, he says, end quote. And WrestleVotes actually put out a tweet that they stated that WWE is very confident that the Revival will re-sign with the WWE. Oh, really? Oh, really? What are you going to do to ensure that they sign? What are you going to do to show them that you truly changed? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. For clarification, Harper's non-compete with WWE expires in early March, so he will be a free agent in 2 months. WWE has offered the Revival significant money to stay, so it says a lot that they've not signed a new contract. It's not about money, man. It's about changing the fucking business. Tag team wrestling is suffering. Tag team wrestling is suffering. It's not even at the top of where it should be in AEW. Revival want to go and change the landscape. They should have every opportunity to do that. Clearly, it's not being done in WWE. It will never be done in WWE. WWE would rather put together a makeshift fucking tag team than actually push their legitimate tag teams. And I hope the Revival are two guys that really stick to their guns and jump. And I've been saying this. AEW, starting on October 2nd, 2019, once we get into October 2020, and we got that 1-year anniversary of Dynamite being on the air on TNT, the show is going to look vastly different. You're going to get some new guys, whether they're WWE free agents, could be the Revival, could be Brody Lee, could be Tessa Blanchard coming on over from Impact after she wins the world title, which I think she will win on Sunday against Sammy. What is there left for Tessa to do in Impact Wrestling? She could go to WWE, but why would you? You got women over there like Kairi Sane and Io Shirai wanting to leave because they are not happy. For whatever reason. It doesn't have to be for a particular reason. They're not happy. Whether they're away from home, whether they're away from a loved one, whether it's creative. It's a mixture of all that. They're not happy. Why would Tessa want to go to a company where women like that are unhappy and WWE's even offering them a spot on the main roster? Like that's going to make anything better. They're offering Io Shirai's spot on the main roster, which equates to more money to keep her happy. Tessa wants to go to a fucking cancerous environment like that? You're too young. You don't need to do that. Why do you want to be just like everybody else when you could be the top of your division? And AEW would probably be a little bit more motivated to start building around you because they'd have no choice but to build around you. The Revival, Tessa, Luke Harper, or Brody Lee, which is what he copyrighted, he even changed his social media to reflect that. Rey Mysterio more than likely is ending up somewhere. His contract is up next year. Or this year, I should say. Around WrestleMania time. Matt Hardy. You don't want to dip too much into the WWE free agent pool and end up like a second-rate WWE. But a lot of these names are top-tier talent. And I would not even bat a fucking eye when the Revival are free, when Matt Hardy is free, when Brody Lee is free. They all need to end up in AEW. And I said this, AEW is going to look vastly different come October 2020. Marty Scurll is going to be on the way over there. It's a lot of top talent right there. They're not going to be a game changer, but it gives AEW what it needs exactly. More talent. More talent. Because what they're doing right now, how long, and I said this on one of the reviews a couple of weeks ago, how long before they start running the well dry with the same shit? You bring those names in, you give those names some great creative. AEW Dynamite could really propel the show to 1 million viewers plus. Seriously. It's not going to move the needle so much that it's going to destroy NXT, but the creative aspect of AEW and the roster talent of AEW is going to look vastly different in 2020. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting. Can't wait to see what happens. But I got more news on all of this coming up on Fridays off the script, and that's all I got for this particular show, man. Thank you guys so very much for all your support. If you enjoyed the podcast, let me know what you think down below. Use the hashtag, let's see, what should we do? Hashtag down below if you made it to the end of the video. Use the hashtag Revival down below in the comment section. Make sure you guys check out the Monday Night Raw review from last night. Make sure you check out Off the Script from this past weekend, SmackDown, and anything else that you might have missed. Everything you need is linked down below in the description of this very video. Follow me on social media at JD from NY206. I'll be back on the channel with AEW Dynamite tomorrow night. Should be great. Then we'll do NXT on Thursday, and then the usual weekend stuff going on into the weekend. audibletrial.com/offthescript. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. As always, turn on the bell for all notifications. If you want to support the podcast via Patreon, you guys can certainly do that as well. Patreon.com/JD from NY206. Thank you guys so very much. Hit that thumbs up down below. I really appreciate it. Helps out the video, get more noticed on the platform. And I will see you guys right back here, as always, for AEW Dynamite. And we'll talk about the Memphis Tribute and everything that happens on AEW, as always, and all the big stories coming out of Dynamite tomorrow night. Till then, guys, have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow for Dynamite on TNT.